Times have changed since the founding father of the United Arab Emirates called Israel the enemy in 1971. Decades of frosty relations were to follow until the 1910s, when the two countries' behind-the-scenes cooperation against Iran ramped up to try and limit its nuclear program and its influence in the region.
A red line should be drawn right here.
The main factor preventing a more open relationship was the UAE's support for Palestinian independence. Nevertheless, last year the UAE became the first Gulf Arab state in more than a quarter of a century to establish ties with Israel in a deal called the Abraham Accords. And who else brokered it but the man behind the art of the deal?
Just a few moments ago, I hosted a very special call with two friends, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed of the United Arab Emirates, where they agreed to finalize a historical peace agreement. Everybody said this would be impossible.
The accords propelled tourism, investment and cooperation in fields from energy to technology. And the UAE proceeded to tout every deal and conference between it and Israel across official channels and tightly controlled local media. The fanfare, though, came to an end in May, which saw the bloodiest hostilities between Israel and Hamas in years, the toll on civilians in Gaza angering citizens across Gulf Arab states, the subsequent opening of an Emirati embassy in Tel Aviv, and a bilateral treaty on tax were announced by Israel, but not the UAE. Ultimately, though, the conflict didn't stop efforts to deepen ties. The exchange of diplomatic missions continues, and on the 14th of June, the UAE welcomed the new Israeli government, indicating that normalization would continue beyond the change in leadership.